Hi there, good afternoon and welcome to our part 3 of CMAT language comprehension session. Every morning, just like you, I also go ahead and check the NTA site for any official intimation. Unfortunately, we've not seen anything yet, but if you happen to have any question, any concern, anything that you want to ask with respect to that, please go ahead and ask. I would absolutely love to address that concern, allay that concern in as candid and direct a manner as possible so that it can help your preparation move ahead in a better manner, so that you are able to start your preparation unhesitatingly, if I were to use the word, or unwaveringly, if I put it that way. So that's my goal. That's what I want you to go ahead and do. And before we start the session, if you are new to our channel, I very warmly, very heartily welcome you to BYJU'S Exam Prep. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and we keep on bringing a lot of sessions for you every day. And frankly, if you have not turned the notifications on from this channel, chances are that you would actually miss out on quite a few of those sessions as a result. So I'd recommend that you also press the bell icon. My name is Vikrant. I'm your personal coach for all things related to English and communication skills. This is our third session of the for the CMAT exam. So let's dig deeper. But before I start, here is something that I want to implant in your mind today. So live the life you've imagined. Chase your dreams. Okay, so a quick overview. So I know that the official notification is not out. I know that we don't know the dates, at least not until a couple of hours ago when I checked the NTA website. But I am provisionally treating it to be on the 12th of May. Although I know it, you know it, with every passing day when the notification does not come out, this starts appearing unlikely. This date becomes a little unrealistic, so to say. But then let's treat that as a cutoff point. If the exam gets postponed, we'd have more time. And that can only benefit us. On the other hand, if we do not keep this as a date in our mind, chances are that we may lack that focus which is so necessary for our preparation. So turning to the exam, 180-minute computer-based test. That test gives you 100 questions, +4 and -1 is the marking scheme. There are 5 different sections. There is no sectional time limit. There is no sectional cutoff either, which means that the college will decide on you on the basis of the overall score that you go ahead and have. So the 5 sections are Quant NDI, logical reasoning, general awareness, then this section called innovation and entrepreneurship, which was introduced a couple of years ago as an optional section, but then last year it was made mandatory. And finally, the area that you and I have gathered for language comprehension. So the exam last year gave us 20 questions to each one of these 5 sections, and we expect it to, of course, continue. Thakurji, at my exam, yes, that's also very close, although I don't even recall very many colleges that are using the ATMA. But yeah, definitely, if you're preparing for that, or yeah, for that matter, any exam where English gets asked as an aptitude, this session is going to be useful for that. I don't even care about the exam. Are you preparing for SSC, banking, CLAT, whatever यार, अंग्रेजी तो अंग्रेजी है, यही पूछा जाता है. हाँ, तो डिफिकल्टी लेवल चेंज हो सकता है, कॉम्पोजिशन चेंज हो सकती है, सिलेबस चेंज नहीं होगा. So as a result, yeah, definitely need to go ahead and do that. Okay, so CMAT cancelled because of NTA release now. Thakur, we actually talked about this in our very first session. You have an absolutely valid point. There is this talk that the exam may not even be conducted. I gave you the reasons for that as well, that suddenly NTA was left with this task of conducting 3 management tests. So last year they conducted IFT, they conducted array, which is that the TIS1 क्या हो गया यार, CUET PG management, and then they conducted CMAT. तो अब यार एक ही तरह की एप्टीट्यूड टेस्ट करने के लिए 3 अलग अलग एग्जाम थोड़ा सेंस नहीं बनाते हैं ना, लॉजिकल नहीं है. सो इस साल आपने देखा IFT started using the CAT scores, TISNET started using the CUET PG score, and then NTA did not so far release a notification. So यार एक पॉसिबिलिटी है. देखो एक तो ना NTA वाले अगर बता दें कि करेंगे नहीं करेंगे तो एक चीज़ हम भी एक साइड पे लगे, आप भी एक साइड पे लगे, हाँ, बट अब बताया तो है नहीं यार. अब जब बताया नहीं तो डिसीजन कैसे लें इस अनसर्टेनिटी में. The only way forward then is to take some assumptions, and we would ideally want to take those assumptions that in turn prove more useful for us. So I do agree with you, but it makes sense to prepare in the absence of a notification. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive into language comprehension. The different things that they ask us in the exam are vocabulary based questions. So you should typically see 7 to 8 of these. Grammar based questions, another 7 to 8 of these. Then you have reading comprehension, typically 4 to 5 questions. And then you can get sentence jumble or para jumble, usually 1 to 2 questions. So if I talk about last year we had 1 reading comprehension passage that gave us 5 questions, 1 para jumble, 7 vocab based questions, and 7 grammar based questions. Within vocabulary they have asked us things like synonyms, antonyms, idioms, phrases, fill in the blanks, etc. And in grammar they have tested us on error identification, direct indirect speech, active passive voice, sentence improvement, so on and so forth. Okay, so that's the range. So you know that I am also starting another series called 100 most important questions for CMAT. Now in that series I will strive at giving you a more holistic picture of the exam. In this particular series today, where we look at language comprehension section in isolation, I have chosen to focus on one specific area so that this class can act as a quick revision of that particular area for you, and that is this specific area from grammar called active and passive voice. Okay, so let's dive into active and passive voice. So the first thing that I would like to actually ask you is, do you have the necessary background? So when I say the necessary background, in order to dive into active passive voice, you basically supposed to be aware of 3 things. Those 3 things are this something called subject, something called verb, something called object, right? So you know that subject happens to be the focus of attention of the speaker of the sentence. The central part of the subject is always going to be a noun or a pronoun, of course. Then you have a verb, and then you have an optional object. But when we talk about active passive voice, the sentences that we get, the object will not be optional unless we look at some very obscure 1 or 2 advanced things which CMAT rarely gets into. So a sentence would typically have a subject, a verb, and an object of that verb. So for example, if I say I am teaching grammar, let's say this, then I is the subject, am teaching is the verb. Now I'm teaching what? Grammar, that is your object. Here is another detailed thing. Let's have a look at this sentence. The family boarded the plane. So the family is the subject. So typically if you ask this question before a verb, who or what, who or what, then you end up getting the subject. Then boarded, that's your verb. It is the doing verb word. It shows the action. And then they boarded what? The plane. So that is your object. So you need to know that your sentences have a subject, a verb, and an object. Okay, so now what is active voice and what is passive voice? So in every sentence, you of course have a subject. But then in these sentences where you have a subject, a verb, an action that is being performed and an object, there has to be somebody who performs that action. So let us call that individual who performs that action our doer. So if you have a sentence where the doer happens to be the subject of the sentence, we will call it active voice. On the other hand, if you have a sentence where the doer is not the subject, then we will call it passive voice. For example, Ravi ate 5 mangoes. Now, who's eating the mangoes? Ravi. So who's the doer? Ravi. Who's the subject of the sentence? Ravi. So this is active voice. But if I say 5 mangoes were eaten by Ravi, so who is eating the mangoes? Who's the doer? The doer is still Ravi, but the subject in this sentence is mangoes, not Ravi, not the doer, and therefore we call it passive voice. Okay, in between, if you happen to have any questions or concerns, any ambiguity, any doubt, please make sure that you ask those things. Okay, so the second thing is learning to convert active voice to passive voice. Of course, I've already told you this one precondition, and that is that your subject has to have an object of the verb involved. If the object of the verb is not present, we cannot make that conversion. So going from active to passive is basically a 3-step process. The first step is the subject object flip-flop. So if the sentence that is given to you is in active voice, then what do? The doer is your subject and then you have an object. So the subject will become the object will become the subject. So the subject object flip-flop, and we typically add a by before the doer when we turn that into the object. So in a way, you know, by is a preposition, so the doer goes on to become an object of this preposition called by. And the third and the last thing is we do bring in some change in the verb. So there is a third form of the verb which is used. Along with that third form, you typically see that we add another verb of the form to be. So it can be literally to be in some cases, but then normally when I say a verb of the form to be, we are talking about these helping verbs. Okay, so is, am, are, was, were, be, been, being. So is, am, are, was, were, be, been, or being. One of these will also be added. And how are they added? Well, and which helping verb, which form of the be verb will be added, that depends on the tense of your sentence. And here is a chart that tells you more about it. So you can probably take a screenshot and then use it. So there are these 8 tense types whose sentences can be converted into passive voice, provided in these sentences you have a subject, you have a verb, and you have the object of the verb. So obviously you have a subject and a verb. That object bit is the only thing that you need to look for. So now I'll just explain one of these. So for example, present indefinite. You know, we use the first form of the verb. We may add an s or an es to that verb, right? So that's one. Now when you convert that into passive voice, what do? Look at the verb which is written there. That's the thing that I want you to look at. So is, am, are plus verb's third form. So you'd always look at the entire row and you'd notice that we're using the third form in passive voice. Okay, so for example, I'd say I eat a mango. Now so it's present indefinite, it uses verb's first form. So what do I say? A mango is eaten by me. So you notice that subject object flip-flop, introduction of this by, and the change in the verb. So one of the mistakes that I've seen people make over the years is that they end up changing the tense. So please remember When it comes to active and passive voice, we are not supposed to change the tense. We use the same tense, albeit we use the passive form of the tense, and the passive form is there in the last column. Okay, so keep this in mind and you should be good to go. So let us dive into some questions, and in the process maybe we can go ahead and learn a few things as well. So are you ready? So there it is. Question number 1 on your screen. You've been given a sentence. Please change the voice of the sentence and choose that, mark that as your answer. So what's your take on question number 1? What answer would you like to pick up? She knows him. So I'm just throwing a googly to begin with. Now normally I told you yeah go ahead and use by, but he's known by her. That is not the correct preposition in this particular sentence. There are times when, and this is just one of those exceptions, we'd say he's known to her. So kabhi there are some sentences where we may not use by. Baki generally yes, we go ahead and do that. So that's your question number 1. Here is your question number 2. ये आसान है. No googly here, okay? Nothing to bother you here. Answers, only one answer so far. What happened? Okay, that makes it 2 answers. एक और आए तो बात आगे बढ़ाएं. So the correct answer here is indeed option C. You guys have been absolutely spot on with this one. So let me take you over to the next question. Here is question number 3 for you. यूनिक फूडी चेक करना है एक बार यार, just match it with the table that I had shown just a little while ago. So अभी आंसर देते टाइम ना, can you also add or append the question number so that I know that both of us are looking at the same question? नहीं तो थोड़ी confusion हो जाएगी यार. So for question number 3 are, so the boy did not break the glass. Okay, so which tense is this? When you say did not break, can I say that we are looking at simple past? That is, or in other words, you call it past indefinite. Now, if you pick up C as your answer, the helping verb that you're using is, but then is will make it simple present. When you talk about simple past, you are supposed to use was or were, isn't it? So C is not correct because we have inadvertently, accidentally changed the tense. The rest of it is fine. So the sentence that does retain the tense as well is A. So the glass was not broken by the boy. So you notice did tells you that it is simple past. And let me just take you through that, take you to that table once again. You can take a quick screenshot. This is what I was talking about. See, past indefinite or simple past. So it has verb second form, or when you use did, then you would of course use did plus not plus verbs first form, right? So that is there. So that's why for question number 3 we opt for A over C. Here it is. Try it for question number 4. Okay, so Manasvi, Samarth, I see that. Okay, once again, just focus on the first of, focus on the verb. Cigarette smoking causes. See this entire part, cigarette smoking. This is the subject here. So this is a noun. Okay, the verb here is causes. So you notice verb with an S. That's very clearly simple present or present indefinite tense, which means that I am going to use is, am or are plus verb's third form. So look at A. Has, not right. Are, third form, right. Are been, nope, that's wrong. Have been, nope, that's wrong. Therefore the correct answer is option B. So if you pick up A, you have converted it into present perfect. That's what I said, that the most common mistake that we see in these questions is that we inadvertently end up changing the tense, whereas we are not supposed to change the tense. We are supposed to use the passive voice structure of the same tense. Next question. And don't worry, getting it wrong is absolutely all right. It's the effort that counts, huh? Don't mind, you are learning. Change the voice. So the only difference in this particular sentence is that it is already in the passive voice. So far I was giving you sentences that were in active voice. It is already in passive voice, so you just needed to reverse the process. And I was shocked. So was plus verb's third form tells you that it is simple past or past indefinite. So what do we use in the active voice? Verb's second form. Where is the verb second form? In all of them. Okay, great. But here the doer is the letter. So they shocked me with the letter. Where is this they coming from? The letter shocked at me. This at is wrong. The letter shocked me. That's correct. I shocked with the letter. I shocked. That's not even a standard tense structure, and therefore our correct answer here should be C. And in case you add a was, I was shocked, that will once again turn it into passive voice instead of. So that is basically your original sentence. Then you just removed the was. Okay, so C is the right answer. Question number 6. What's your take? Look at it carefully. Look at it carefully. Think it through and then give me an answer. And then we'll talk about it, of course. So let's dive into this particular question now. What is special about this sentence? The question here is, where is the subject? What is the subject in this sentence? So this sentence is called an imperative sentence. So you may remember from your school days that we have 4 different types of sentences. Assertive / declarative, interrogative, imperative, exclamatory. And if you study grammar at an advanced level, maybe a 5th type as well, optative. So it's an imperative sentence. Imperative sentences are used for commands, requests, or instructions. And one of the features of the imperative sentences is that the subject here is implicit. Okay, it is hidden. There is a subject, but the subject is not stated. So the subject in these sentences is you. It's not the door, Manasvi. It is you. So now if you want to convert these into passive voice, there are 2 ways. Way number 1, you start the sentence with let, then you use the object, then be plus verb's 3rd form. So that's one way out. The other way out is you introduce the subject. So you, and then you write you are, whatever it is thereafter, requested, commanded, instructed to, and then the rest of the sentence. So if you ask me to convert it into passive voice, I will say there are 2 ways. Okay, you are requested to open the door, you are instructed to open the door, you are commanded to open the door. That's one. The other one is let and then the object. So let, the object here is the door. So let the door. In A, the problem is with this shall, we just need B. So A is ruled out. C and D do not use either the let or that use structure, so they are also ruled out, and that takes you to B. So let the door be opened. So when it comes to imperative sentences, 2 ways in which passive voices can be constructed. Both of them are going to be right. I have given you an example of each one of these 2 types. And in case you've learned this, here is another question of the same variety to cement the concept. Okay, so you're absolutely spot on, Manasvi and Sonu. The correct answer here is indeed option D. Here is the next one. So try this out. So introducing something new in this sentence as well. Let us see. Okay, so what is different about this particular sentence? The difference here is that we found what? A good husband, but we found a good husband for whom? Her. So it actually happens to have two objects, a direct object and an indirect object. So whenever you see a sentence with a verb with these two objects, okay, a direct and an indirect, you call it a ditransitive verb. So when you convert such sentences into passive voice, you can pick up any of these two objects to act as a subject in the passive voice. So I can choose this. So I can say a good husband was found for her by us. A good husband was found for her by us. Or I can choose this to be the subject. She was found a good husband by us. So the first structure is not present anywhere. D comes close, but it should have been a good husband was found, not founded. And besides, it is also missing out on for her. So whenever there is an indirect object in the passive voice, if you're not using that as a subject, you make it the object of for or to, which is not happening in D. We have omitted something, and that is why B should be your best answer. Here is question number 9, where I once again am giving you something which will probably expand your learning. Let's see. Okay, shall we? So the correct answer here to this particular question is going to be option C. What is wrong with A? In A, we have, so you notice there are two verbs here. You have to see it to believe it. So you need to convert both of them into passive voice. So in A, we have converted the first one into passive, but the second one is not in passive voice. In B, same problem. And that is why C scores over these two. So it has to be seen to be believed. Now the only issue here is that you may say that okay, it does not have by you, but then this by is not mandatory every single time. There are times when that person is understood. There are times when the doer is understood, and whenever the doer is understood, we omit it. For example, when when you read a sentence in the newspaper that says 3 terrorists killed, of course, who killed them? Who kills the terrorists? The security forces. You don't mention them by security forces. A car, my car, if I say my car got stolen, who steals it? A thief. But it is understood. So it's not necessary for you to have it there all the time. And the other learning that we had from this sentence is that if you have multiple verbs, make sure that every verb is converted into passive voice. And here is something slightly different once again. So all the sentences that I gave you so far were declarative or imperative. Here is a sentence that is interrogative. Here is a question that I consider it easy, but then it initially does trip us a little. So what's your take on question number 10? So, easy peasy? Arey, I thought it will be easy peasy, but absolutely. So, has Ramya done the assignment? Imagine, had it been an assertive sentence, it will be Ramya has done the assignment. Then the passive will be the assignment has been done by Ramya. Now, if you convert it into passive voice, what you do? Has the assignment been done by Ramya? And that has the assignment been done by Ramya is given to you in D. Right? In A, we have once again, you notice we ended up changing the tense from present perfect to past perfect. We don't do that. In B, where is that addition of been? In perfect tenses, you add a been, right? Where is that? And C is not making it a question. Although it has an interrogative mark at the end, it has a question mark at the end, but in a question, you know, the helping verb needs to be shifted at the beginning. That hasn't happened, and that is why C needs to be ruled out, and D is our answer. So that's how you would go ahead and look at this. So that's what I had brought for you. Tomorrow I will have more of a mixed bag test to prepare you for CMAT, and let's not forget that we do offer a specialized course for CMAT. Here are the details along with the price. Pretty cheap if you'd ask me. So if you're a serious aspirant, you can definitely consider this crash course. Apart from that, if you know people who are preparing for CAT 24, can you tell them that we have a workshop happening on 31st of March where we will talk about the roadmap to 99 percentile and a scholarship test taking place in just a couple of days that can help them save 90% off. In case you want to have a word with us one-on-one to solve any doubts, concerns, etc., fill out this form. We'll get back to you and then we can sit down and have a long chat. That's it from me today. Don't forget to like the video before you sign out, and I'll once again see you tomorrow at, let me just confirm the time as well while we are at it. I will see you tomorrow at 1. Okay, so instead of 12, I'll meet you tomorrow at 1 where we go ahead and have a CMAT mixed bag practice session. Have a great day ahead. See you there.